Call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, June 13th, 2022 at 7:04 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Cronin.
Present.
Alderperson Helmke.
Present.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Kimmett.
Here.
Alderperson Posey.
Here.
Alderperson Reekie.
Here.
Alderperson Touche.
I am present.
And Alderperson Hoagst is absent and excused.
All right, 7 of 8, so that's enough people for a quorum. We'll move on to item 4, which is public comment. If any members of the public wish to speak, now would be the time to do so.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Drager, and I'm one of the 7 siblings that own the Drager property, which is the subject of number 5 on the Plan Commission tonight. And I just want to give you just a little bit of background. My parents bought the property in the late 60s when my oldest brother was transitioning onto the farm and my dad was transitioning off the farm. So most of us have lived in that house. Then my dad has died 21 years ago. My mom passed away almost 10 years ago. So it is time. It's time to sell the property. For the property itself, my opinion at least, it's perfect for what Fiduciary is proposing, high density. We've got access to Highway PD that's been newly improved. It's got the 4-lane highway with the bike paths. It actually has great access to Highway M through the newly constructed Morningside Boulevard, which it's my understanding is one layer of asphalt and a few punch list items away from being completed. And one of the key points about it, it does keep traffic out of downtown Verona. One of the comments at the Plan Commission meeting was the mix of family, single family and apartment buildings. Do we need more apartment buildings? And I just wanted to point out and look at it big picture that our neighbors to the south, Whispering Cove subdivision, are in the process of getting 200 single-family homes in there, and that's just phase 1. And then there'll be phase 2, and I'm sure phase 3, phase 4. So that's going to add a lot of additional single-family homes. Also, down to the west of us is the Marty property, where the Viridian people are proposing another 300 single-family homes. And then just to the north of us, there's the Woods property, where they're proposing another 150 single-family homes. So I think you're going to be inundated with single-family homes. And like I said, this property, of where it's located and with its highway access, is perfect for high-density use. Just a couple of words about the developer. When the last project fell through with Edward Rose, and because they couldn't provide the underground parking that you were requiring, we were back to the drawing board. And trust me, we interviewed dozens of developers. Adam and Catherine can attest to that. They took a barrage of phone calls, and I really appreciate their assistance on that. And we ended up with Fiduciary for several reasons. First of all, I think they're the best of the best. I don't think we could do better. And why do I say that? They're financially stable. You don't get off the ground unless you're working with somebody that has the ability to do that. Secondly, they follow through. The negotiation process was the easiest I've ever had. When they said they were going to do something, they did it when they said they were going to do it. They've got a track record. They've built the apartments from Maple Grove Road, and they offered a tour, and I took them up on it. Pleasantly pleased, not surprised, pleased that it's a nice layout, lots of amenities, and quality. And I think we probably have all at some point in our life lived in apartments. I know I have, and one of the things that you determine whether you have a quality apartment or not is the quality and quantity of the cabinets. One of the units that I was in had floor-to-ceiling cabinets in the kitchen. So where do you see that? And I'm sure they'd be more than glad to give you all a tour too. But most importantly, all those things are important, but most importantly, they listen and they've done their due diligence. They spend hours online listening to Common Council their online videos, to the Plan Commission videos, so they could deliver what you wanted. And I think they've done that. They've got a nice mix of properties. They've got 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. They've got 2 stories, 3 stories, just a really nice mix of potential apartments for people. And they've got patios, they've got ducks, they've got a dog washing station, they've got a great fitness club. So it's a beautiful layout that they've got at the one that I saw, and I think they're proposing something very similar to our property. So as a family, we wanted something on that property that we could be proud of, and I think we found it. I think this is something that Mom and Dad will be proud of. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so.
Good evening. My name is Richard Slayton. I'm here with my partner, Catherine Solwin, and we live at 115 Harmony Drive. The item number 3 is right in our backyard, and we just want to point out a couple things with what they're doing. Certainly understand. Sure. I can hear myself perfectly. Certainly understand their performa, what they need to do. We happen to be the lot adjacent to what we lovingly refer to as Lake Stormwater Management GUMI, which is the detention pond at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we are the lowest property along Harmony Drive, which we are probably most impacted because of that with the height of the building. They are proposing an evergreen screen. We'd like to see that evergreen screen be more naturalistic rather than a straight line that they're showing on their planting plan. We're concerned with the use of spruce trees because of a disease that is impacting Wisconsin spruces, though it doesn't seem to impact the Norway spruce for some reason. So, concerned about that, the size of the plants, the installed size, and pretty sure that was about it. Do I stick around for that part of the hearing to talk at that time too?
There is not a public hearing at that
Okay.
point, so like you're talking at the right time.
Okay. So, again, using the native white pine we think is appropriate. Using Norway spruce. They are showing some white fir, which is a very rigid-looking plant that kind of competes with a naturalistic aesthetic. So I think that was it. I'm going to sit down and remember 5 other things I wanted to say, but thank you for letting me have some time.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so.
My name is John Mann. I represent the project that the previous gentleman was just talking about. We had lots of time for public comment, and unfortunately, we didn't hear from them until just on Thursday. And our landscape designer was out of pocket on Friday and got back to us today. And all I can tell you is that we're happy to look at the species of the trees that he was concerned about, and happy to do that. I mean, we're not married to that particular tree, so we're happy to work with the city and the planners and their neighbors on that. He mentioned something about the stormwater, and I don't know how our building affects their stormwater swamp at all, or whatever he called it, but this building doesn't really affect that at all. So I just want to make those 2 comments.
All right, we are still in public comment. I saw at least one other person getting up, so.
Good evening. My name is Tony DeRosa with Fiduciary Real Estate Development. I'm here this evening to touch on a very brief presentation regarding item number 5 on the Plan Commission agenda portion for this evening's meeting. And have a brief presentation. I think everybody can see it on their screens. Great, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I'm going to share a very brief presentation with you to touch base on just a couple items. One of the reasons we're here tonight is, as a real estate development company, we've done a lot of work in the greater Madison metro area over the past 10 plus years. And more specifically, we've been working on a project just to the east of here called the 85 at Maple Grove, which is located on Maple Grove Drive, just south of PD. We've had great success in seeing great interest in our project that we've been building there, and seeing how strong the demand is for that type of housing that has got us excited about this opportunity that we're here to talk about this evening. A little bit about Fiduciary Real Estate Development. We're based in Milwaukee. We're an experienced developer. We focus on market rate multifamily housing, mixed-use development, commercial, retail, as well as some medical office. We were founded in 1984. We've grown our business and our company into one of Wisconsin's largest real estate companies. We've developed and owned upwards of 11,000 plus apartments in our time. We have a portfolio conservatively valued in excess of about $1.5 billion. Rounding out our team, our architectural design partner is JLA, based here in Madison, with Joe Lee here with us this evening, and our civil engineering design firm is the Sigma Group. In terms of the overall proposed development, it includes a few different components. The first one is a commercial outlot of just under 2 acres that's located along PD. And then we have a multifamily component with different product types, ranging from 3-story corridor-style buildings with underground parking, 2-story townhomes with direct private entrances, as well as attached 1- and 2-car garages. In terms of the apartment communities that we're going to offer our residents, they'll include attached garages as well as underground parking options, high-quality construction, oversized windows, private balconies, and patios. Our floor plans are designed as open concept floor plans. Countertops are solid surface in our buildings. We provide an in-apartment washer and dryer, and we also include an Energy Star rated upgraded stainless steel appliance package. In terms of overall community amenities, we have a resort-style clubhouse and pool with an entertaining-style kitchen for our residents to utilize. We offer a first-class fitness center within our clubhouse. We promote a lot of walkability in terms of connectivity and sidewalk connections throughout the development. Fiduciary, we manage all of our developments that we build, so we will be the property manager on site, and we like to provide an abundance of green space as an amenity to the development itself. While we haven't fully completed a design of what the exterior of these buildings are going to look like, I wanted to share just a few pictures of some of our most recent projects to give you a feel for the quality of our work. The image that you see on the screen right here would be an example of a 2-story stack flat with all private direct entrances and attached garages. This next image is more along the lines of a townhome style housing building with attached garages. And then here's an example of a 3-story corridor building with hallways, elevators, and underground parking. A little bit different architectural style, but just another example of a 3-story corridor building with a more modern architectural flair to it. In terms of the interiors of our buildings, we're known for coming into a market and providing a best-in-class product as well as best-in-class finish. And here's a couple of photos of what some of our most recent buildings look like on the inside. You've seen the site plan slide in your packet, but I wanted to just touch on a few things to highlight here. PD has been improved to handle a lot of traffic and can easily handle a project of this nature. This is an attractive multifamily site, given its proximity to the major employers in the community. This is a plan that responds to today's market and what people are looking for. With this type of development, we're able to target multiple demographic groups with the different types of buildings that we are planning. We aren't interested in a site where all buildings are absolutely identical to one another. With a couple acres of commercial along PD, along with our clubhouse presence up there and our 3-story buildings with underground parking, we're creating a very attractive street presence as you enter the site. As you go south into the site, we transition to 2-story buildings with attached garages. Those are our stacked flat buildings with attached garages. And then we transition to our 2-story townhome buildings that have 2-car attached garages for each apartment home. All of the apartments in the 2-story buildings have their own private direct entrance, giving it more of a townhome or condo type feel. And while there are a few of our 3-story buildings that are a few spaces short of having a 1-to-1 underground parking ratio, all of our 2-story buildings actually exceed the 1-to-1 requirement. So in totality, the overall project does exceed the 1-to-1 ratio. We're actually at 1.16 enclosed spaces per apartment unit. And this has really allowed us to maximize our green space for the development, which we think is a great amenity over the site. The stormwater basins, while large in size due to the closed basin design requirements, naturally anchor as the topography slopes to the south and anchors the south end of the development. We think there's some great opportunities for some passive recreation opportunities here, whether it's seating areas, a walking path, or a trail around the basins. We think that could be a very nice feature for the overall development. We'd also look to work with staff to find a place for a bike trail or bike path, whether that's on the public road that would extend north-south for the site or along the west side of the property. But we're big into providing connectivity, not just within our overall development, our 30 acres here, but how our development connects to other properties to the east, west, north, and south as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions when our item comes up on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment. So if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. Seeing nobody approaching the microphone, we will move on to item 5, which is approval of minutes from the May 23rd, 2022 Common Council meeting.
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Last chance for corrections to the minutes. Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the May 23rd, 2022 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. Under Mayor's business, I just have one quick thing. Thank you for bearing with us at the beginning of the meeting for the 4-minute delay. We had some tech issues to sort out. But that's all I have. We'll move on to item 7, announcements. Any announcements from the council? Alder Helmke.
Yeah, I just want to mention that the senior center is in need of volunteers for taking Meals on Wheels. We're short volunteers, so anybody is interested. And there's the other key piece of this to note is like there's no regular commitment needed in the sense of like it can be once a month as needed. They just really need help. So.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, the administrator's report. Since Mr. Sayer is absent, I'm just going to direct you to the packet, and he will, I'm sure, be happy to answer questions after he's back from vacation. With that, we'll move on to item 9, which is the engineer's report. Mr. Billmeyer.
All right. Hi, my name is Jess Billmeyer. I'm filling in for Carla Fisher, who's on vacation this week. I always love coming and meeting with this group, so thanks for inviting me back. We'll start off the engineer's report with the County M PB intersection expansion. The temporary signals are in place and operational at the M and PB intersection and will be used until the new signals are installed and operational around mid-July. Traffic is currently in stage 3, and that's planned to last until mid-July. The new traffic patterns are as follows. The west leg of the intersection is closed. Traffic is being detoured around the closure via M, East Verona Avenue, and County PB. Northbound traffic is restricted to one lane just south of American Way through the intersection. Southbound PB traffic is also restricted to one lane from the bypass off-ramp through the intersection that's being constructed. Turning right from northbound PB to eastbound M will be detoured just south of the intersection through American Way, then to Thousand Oaks Drives, and then back to County M. County M traffic east of the intersection to the County M Thousand Oaks intersection will be shifted to the south and signed for a 14-foot maximum width. Next project is the 2022 Asphalt Street Rehabilitation Project. This project involves work on Military Ridge Drive, Harmony Drive, Todd Street, and a portion of the bike path along Cross Country Road. Work's begun on the Military Ridge Drive, with the other locations to begin in the next couple of weeks. If all goes well, all work should be completed by early July. A pre-recorded virtual public information meeting has been posted to the city YouTube website and has been linked to the project webpage. Next project is the 2022 Pavement Surface Treatment Project. This is a chip sealing multiple streets in the Cathedral Point and Scenic Ridge neighborhoods. Work's begun and is about 90% complete. The contractor is just waiting for dry conditions to complete the remaining work. For development projects, Morningside Boulevard, as was mentioned in the public comment, is substantially complete with punch list items beginning to be completed and the remainder being completed over the next month or two. The Costco site, work is continuing on public improvements portion of the project. The curb, sidewalk, and pavement items are planned to begin in mid-June, and work continues on the on-site storm sewer and infiltration pond near the parking areas. On the East Technology Park, there are two things going on, ponds and grading and the streets. Work is progressing on the ponds, and those should be completed in the next month or two. With the streets, the work involves installing underground utilities and roads adjacent to the tech park. The design is being completed by D'Onofrio, Ketke and Associates. The project bid opening was May 27th, and Parisi was the apparent low bidder. Work is anticipated to begin after plans finalized and approved and permits issued. Last is the Sugar Creek Elementary public improvements. The contractor has a little more curb and gutter and sidewalk to place and is anticipating paving near the end of June or early July. Anticipated project completion is the end of July. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the engineer's report? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 10. And if you'll permit me, in the interest of moving some of the public safety stuff along, because to get some of the applicants out of here before the Finance Committee, I would like to address public safety first under the committee reports. Alderiki.
I would like to make a motion to approve of all alcohol license renewal applications for the 2022-23 licensing period, contingent upon completion of final inspections.
Second.
Motion by Alderiki, seconded by Alder Touche. Alderiki.
29 applications for the 2022-23 retail alcohol license renewals were received by the city clerk. Premises inspections by the building inspector and fire department are ongoing, hence the contingency, and the list of applicants was included in the packet.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the alcohol license renewal applications for the 2022 to 2023 licensing period with the contingency specified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes. Alderiki.
I make a motion to approve the cigarette and tobacco products retail license renewal applications for the 2022 to 23 licensing period.
Second.
Motion by Alderiki, seconded by Alder Touche. Alderiki.
8 applications for the 2022 to 23 cigarette and tobacco products retail licenses were received by the city clerk. The list of applicants is included in the packet.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the cigarette and tobacco products retail license renewal applications for the 2022 to 2023 licensing period, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alderiki.
I make a motion to approve an application for a Class A intoxicating liquor and Class A fermented malt beverage license from Costco Wholesale Corporation, doing business as Costco Wholesale number 1491, located at 1000 Batkirk Court. Sylvia Comunale, agent.
Motion by Alderiki. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Touche. Alderiki.
The applicant is applying for a Class A intoxicating liquor, and that has a contingency upon final inspections from the building inspector and fire department.
And that was the understanding of the second as well?
It is.
Okay. Alderiki.
All right, so these Class A intoxicating liquor and Class A fermented malt beverage license is for the retail store to be located at 1000 Batkirk Court, and staff recommends approval of the license with the contingency.
Motion before the body. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of granting the application for a Class A intoxicating liquor and Class A fermented malt beverage license for Costco Wholesale Corporation, doing business as Costco Wholesale, number 1491, located at 1000 Bacter Court, Sylvia Comunale as the agent, with the contingency specified, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from public safety?
No, that's all.
Excellent. Now we will be back onto the regular schedule. 10A is Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for the payment of the bills in the amount of $1,034,645.05.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Alder Homke. Alder Kemp.
Sure. First, we have a payment to the Madison Metro Sewage District in the amount of $135,682. We have a payment, that's for the Tech Park connection fee. We have a payment to AECom in the amount of $190,102 for miscellaneous engineering services. A payment to Farner Asphalt in the amount of $46,030 for crack filling. A payment to Motorola Solutions in the amount of $37,400 for portable radios for the fire department. A payment to Parisi Construction in the amount of $160,445 for County Highway M County PB intersection work. A payment to Reliant Fire Apparatus for extrication equipment. It's part of the EPIC grant that we got. That was $38,153. A payment to Tri-County Paving in the amount of $35,424 for Cathedral Point Park Trail paving, and a payment of $41,896 to VHWCP LLC for the upsized sanitary sewer woods at Cathedral Point Well Water Solutions. For the upsized sanitary sewer. Then also we have a payment of $60,586 to Well Water Solutions for well 2 rehab.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Kind of got to pay them. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Kemp.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for the acceptance of the city 2021 financial statements. We will have a presentation by the representatives at Baker Tilly. Also, if anyone on the council would like a copy of their presentation, we do have paper copies after. I believe Brian said that, so you guys can go ahead. Thank you.
Appreciate you having us here tonight. My name is John Rader. I'm a director with Baker Tilly, and I'm responsible for the governmental funds side of your audit. So that means your general fund, TIF funds, capital, debt service, those kind of funds. And this is Jody Dobson, and Jody's a partner on the utility side, and so she is responsible for your 3 utility funds. With that said, we're going to split this presentation in half accordingly. As we go through the information, as we mentioned, we do have some graphs. Do you have those as part of your packet as well electronically? I see some heads nodding. Great. Okay. So I'm going to walk through those. I'm going to start it off, and the one I'm going to be looking at looks like this. It starts with a bar graph. Before I touch on that, though, I want to mention that there are 2 reports that we actually do issue. We prepare the city's financial statements just like we do for 95+% of our clients, just because governmental accounting has gotten so complex. And if you only do it once a year, it's quite a hurdle to get over, and with the resources that are limited at the city otherwise. So we prepare your financial statements. And what I do want to mention about that is probably the most critical piece of why you really hire us is to issue an opinion on those financial statements. And that's a 3-page report right up front. And we issue what we call an unmodified, or otherwise known as a clean opinion on your financials, which is basically saying that they're prepared according to the accounting rules GAAP. And these days, there's about 95 different, I think I got that right, 95 different accounting standards that you have to follow. Not all of them apply to the city, but many, many of them do. When I started this many years ago, I think there were 16, so they seem to be accelerating and getting more complex. So that's critical. It's critical for the city, it's taking pride in that, but it's also for your lending entities and granting agencies and for the state and others too. So that's the highest level of assurance you can get. The other report that we issue, though, is called the Reporting and Insights. It's a much smaller document and has a whole host of different things within there, including what are our responsibilities, Baker Tilly's, as your auditors, and that's laid out. Because quite often there's a misunderstanding of what kind of audit are you doing? Well, we're really doing external financial reporting, or like I said, GAAP audit. And so what does that involve? Also some required communications that you'll see in almost every audit report. Some new GASBs that are coming around the bend, the accounting rules. There's a big one next year for leases for both governmental and non-governmental entities. And any internal control comments that came up during the course of the audit, usually in the preliminary phase of the audit. It's very limited in there. All we have is the fact that, like I said, that we do prepare your financial statements. We have to report that as an internal control matter, just because the auditing rules in this case say you have to report it. But like I said, this is very common for most places that we audit. Along with that, I do want to mention that if we have material entries, that would be part of that comment too. But for Verona, we actually did not have any material entries during the 2021 audit. So that's really commendable. That is not easy to achieve when you think of the really thousands of transactions that are going through your system. It's not only important for the audit, it lets you know that you can rely on that financial information that you receive throughout the year, and particularly during the budget process, that you can rely on it. If Jody and I came in here and said there were 50-plus entries, you might start scratching your head of how good the records really are, but they're very good. Okay, with that said, I'm going to walk through the graphs. I have 4 pages. Like I said, the first one has this bar graph here. Okay, so I do see that you see it. This is a focus on the general funds fund balance at the end of the year. And fund balance is just think of you collect all your receivables and pay all your payables. This is what you would have on December 31st. And in governmental funds, you can have up to 5 different components of fund balance. The city has 3. So I'm going to start at the bottom, that non-spendable. The green are the 2021 amounts. You can see non-spendable constitutes $233,000. Not much when you compare it to the whole. That's some prepaids and long-term receivables. So non-spendable is just like it sounds. It's things that are in your fund balance or equity, but you can't use it to apply to the next year's budget or anything of that nature. It's not liquid, so to speak. Nothing restricted, nothing committed. And assigned, you have 1.1 million. That entire amount is what you have applied to spend down or use during the 2022 budget that you're operating in right now. Okay. Everything that's left is in that $4,093,000 in unassigned. Okay. This is also something I want to point out because a lot of places that we audit, especially if they have active TIFs, do have more in the non-spendable portion of your fund balance, okay, which ties it up, so to speak. And you don't have much in there, so you can use it for things like you have done to apply to the budget. The way you got there is you can see in the middle of this same page, there's a summarized income statement. The details are in the back of your actual financials. But your revenues came in just slightly ahead of budget, really almost approximated budget, $37,000 difference. Expenditures, though, is where the story is, and that was actually under budget by $818,000. For the 2021 budget, you had planned on spending down your general fund balance of $425,000. You see that number in the middle of that, in that middle column. But you came out with a surplus or net income in your general fund of $430,000, so that means you came out ahead of budget, or what you had planned, by $855,000. What does that mean if you flip to the next page? This is a common metric of the health of a general fund, where the unassigned fund balance is compared to budgeted expenditures, and the city has a policy for this. And that percentage for you this year, at the end of the year, I should say, was 42%. That's a slight increase over last year's. You can see other places we audit, those blue dots. That's just more of interest. I wouldn't put too much weight on that, but you can see you're pretty much in the ballpark of where others are of similar size based on population in Wisconsin. I do want to mention this graph has an error, and I apologize for that. We put the city's policy in here. Both those upper and lower limits should be up by 10%. So it is correct in the financials, but I want to point that out, and we'll get that corrected for next year. But if that was the case, you're still just about 7% above that upper limit of 35%. Okay. The GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association in Chicago, recommends having a minimum of 2 months for liquidity purposes, 17%. As you can see, for a lot of places that we audit, it's quite a bit above that, just because of a lot of the unknown natures of funding and such, of shared revenues. It's good to have that cushion, and what it really comes down to is having a policy, and you do have that. All right, shifting gears. Now we're going to look at outstanding debt. And so in Wisconsin, as you know, you're limited to 5% of the equalized value as far as your debt limit. And so you can see that, how it's plotted out on the top of page 3 in that black line. Your outstanding GO debt, which is made up of both obligations within the city funds as well as the utility, as 9.3, went down to $44.5 million at the end of 2021. So that's a decrease of about $6.5 million. 3.7 of that decrease was because you refunded some bonds. You issued new bonds in 2021 to refund some, but you also used existing cash resources to pay that down. So as you can see, over the last several years, there's been a steady decline in your GO debt, which is also noted in the above. You can see that 28% is what you're using as far as your debt capacity at the end of 2021. Last year, that was 31%, and 2 years ago, that was 34%, so it's been inching downwards. In the middle, or right below that graph, you can see the summarized, I mentioned the GO debt, utility funds, and Jody will touch on this, also has about $500,000 in revenue bonds, and then the compensated absences are the accrued benefits. Okay. If you're interested to see how you compare to other places, there's a link in here. The hyperlink works in the PDF. You can go in and see how Verona compares to similar places within the county and by population. There's a lot of interesting metrics in there that the Wisconsin Policy Forum puts out each year. And then lastly, on page 4, is another way of looking at debt. It's how much debt do you pay during the year, debt service. And this is just for governmental funds. So taking a look at the principal and interest and dividing that by the non-capital expenditures, we pull capital out to get apples to apples each year, you can see you pay about 29.7%. So just a little bit under a third of your governmental expenditures are devoted to principal and interest. That has been declining over the last 5 years. But again, you can see it is above most places that we audit, and we generally recommend to try to keep that around 20%. But because of the active TIFs and such, it has been higher in the past, and I know there's been a concerted effort to bring that down, and as you can see, that's being played out. Okay. Any questions on my graphs or anything?
I'll let you say.
You mentioned TIFs, and it has a play in here, and you know, TIF has been a very helpful tool to help the city attract businesses and whatnot. I'm more curious about our debt unrelated to TIFs. Is that number in here somewhere that I'm not seeing?
That number's not separated out in here. It exists, and I can get it to you, though. Yeah.
That would be handy to know, because that really feels like what our true debt is. I mean, the TIF, again, is a tool to attract and build business within the city, provide opportunity, but I feel like that runs itself as the developers come in and utilize it. It's kind of its own thing. But the rest of our debt, whether it's road work or whatever, this seems like a scary number, but I'm thinking it's a lot smaller if we take the TIFs out. So
there's definitely a distinction between the debt that exists that's going to be supported or paid by the increment that comes in for that purpose, and your TIFs are in good shape too. So that adds to that story. Whereas some places, they're not sure if they're going to have actually a positive increment at the end of the life of the TIF. But the cities are in good shape. Some young TIFs as well. But historically, they've done well. You're correct. So, yeah.
If you look at the back of the budget book each year, it breaks it down between TIFs and library.
I'm sleeping usually by the end of the budget book, but not because you do a bunch of work. I appreciate the work. I'm just not that geeked out by it, but thank you.
Any other questions?
Good question. I'll turn it over to Jody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as John said, I focus on working with the enterprise fund utilities, so the water, sewer, and stormwater utilities. And those three organizations operate as I said, as enterprise funds, so they follow full accrual accounting. And they're designed where there's a rate structure to provide revenues to cover the costs. So we do look at the metrics a little bit different. So there's 3 graphs that I believe were provided. The first one starts out with the water utility at the top. And there's a box towards the top portion of the page that looks at, for the last 5 years, the operating revenues versus the operating expenses. And what we can see is for the last 2 years, since the rates were last adjusted for the water utility, the revenues have been very stable, and the expenses have continued to increase just slightly, which is not unusual given the nature of a lot of the costs of the water utility, things like chemicals, power, labor, et cetera. So that contributes to that top number, the rate of return or the earnings of the utility decreasing just slightly from the prior year. If we look then below that table, we have the unrestricted cash reserves. And for a utility, the GFOA that John mentioned would recommend a bare minimum of 3 months' worth of operations on hand. Rating agencies often like to see closer to 6 to 12 months of cash on hand to judge the health of a utility. The end of 2021, your water utility had just over 17 months of cash on hand. So a very stable position there. And we've seen some ups and downs over the years, which is also quite normal, as you have some years that have larger capital spending or special projects that spend that down, and then it gets built back up for the next one. The next metric we have is actually for the 3 utilities combined, looking at their debt coverage. And that's because for any revenue debt that's outstanding, the revenues of all 3 utilities has been pledged. So we look at that together. With those revenue bonds, because they're not backed by the taxing authority of the city, one of the covenants is that you have revenues coming in to cover your operating costs and then the debt service plus a little additional on the debt service. So in your resolutions, it's 1.25 times the debt service. And we can see the actual is closer to 20 times. And that's because you don't have a lot of revenue debt outstanding, is why that ratio is as it is. So that does represent really borrowing capacity if it were to be needed for a project. And then at the bottom bar here for the water utility looks at how much of the capital assets are financed through outstanding debt versus ultimately the equity of the utility because the debt has been paid off or it's been contributed or financed in some other way. And so at the end of the year, only 5% of the capital assets in the water utility were financed with outstanding debt. That's a very low amount of debt outstanding. So again, gives you flexibility in how future projects are financed. If we look at the next page, we have very similar metrics for the sewer utility. So the top one, looking at the operating results, we can see that historically, the operating expenses have been higher than the operating revenues. A large portion of that was driven by depreciation expense, which is a non-cash expense, but also does represent the use of your infrastructure that it ultimately needs to be replaced. And so over the last couple of years, the sewer utility has been working to get those rates to be more in line. And part of that was making sure that the full cost of the treatment charges from MMSD were being recovered on an annual basis. And so this is really proactively looking at the rates on an annual basis to make sure those are aligned. Again, if we look at the cash reserves in the middle of the page, about 12.2 months on hand at year end, so a very strong cash reserve there. And the sewer utility does have a little bit more debt outstanding, about 25% of the assets financed through outstanding debt. That's still a very reasonable percentage by benchmarks in the industry. And then finally, looking at the stormwater utility, which is the youngest of the 3 utilities. If we look at the top graph there, the operating expenses have historically been above the operating revenues. Again, that's primarily driven by that non-cash depreciation expense, but it is something that I know management is proactively looking at as to what is the right amount of revenues for this utility based on their needs moving forward as operating costs change and as there are ongoing improvements in the utility. I'm looking at the cash reserves. At year end, about 9.3 months on hand, so still a very strong cash reserve, but as we look at the historical trend, that has been trending downward. So again, that's another indicator that the utility has been using more cash that's been coming in on an annual basis and supports that review of the rate structure. And then the bottom line bar here, looking at the investment in capital, I apologize, the colors got reversed, so it looks a little deceiving, but it is only 7% debt outstanding for the capital infrastructure. So again, very low debt there, which provides that flexibility as significant projects that are non-routine may come to play in the future. So are there any questions on the three utilities?
Any questions on this part of the report? Getting off easy.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and we would also like to thank the city staff for all of their help during the audit process. We do ask for a lot of information, and we appreciate everything that they're able to provide for us.
Thank you. Okay, I would entertain a motion to accept the financial statements.
I think I already made one, so we just need a second now, I thought.
Okay, yeah. Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to say second by Alder Posey, I guess. Motion before the body. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of accepting the City 2021 financial statements presentation by Baker Tilly, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion passes. Anything further from Finance?
No, sir, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Next, we'll move on to 10B, which is Plan Commission. Alder Posey.
Thank you. All right. Sorry, let me get to my spot here. I'd like to make a motion approving resolution number R-22-023, approving a conditional use permit for vehicle sales and rental land use located at 1200 John P. Livesey Boulevard. Give me 1 second, because I believe there was a condition in that one. With the condition follows, any modification to the landscape plan shall be presented and approved by planning staff.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Alder Posey.
The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on June 6, 2022, and received no public comments. Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the conditional use permit to allow a professional office and vehicle sales and rental land use at 1200 John P. Livesey Boulevard with the conditions specified.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the conditional use permit? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-22-023, approving a conditional use permit for vehicle sales and rental land use located at 1200 John P. Livesey Boulevard with the contingency specified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Posey.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number R-22-024, approving a conditional use permit for an adult daycare land use located at 1043 North Edge Trail.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. Alder Posey.
The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on June 6, 2022, and received no public comments. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the conditional use permit to allow an adult daycare land use located at 1043 North Edge Trail.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Cronin.
I just wanted to clarify that this is a rental situation. It's not, they're not purchasing the building, correct? Because there was plans, I thought, for that property to be turned into apartments or condos or something.
It will be I believe, a lease.
Any other questions or comments on this motion? Alder Touche.
I think this came up during public comment, but I just want to reaffirm that the developer worked with the neighbors on the landscaping. Made a lot of sense to me.
I think that was the
What was the next one? I've been reading ahead, I'm sorry. Well, let's apply this in the future for the next time. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-22-024, approving conditional use permit for an adult daycare land use located at 1043 North Edge Trail, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Posey.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number R-22-025, approving a precise implementation plan amendment to construct a 3-story, 57-unit apartment building for Lot 2, Prairie Oaks Drive, east of Goddard School.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Alder Posey.
The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on June 6, 2022, and received no public comments. Comments from the Plan Commission included questions about the green roof and what type of maintenance is required for the roof, support for the amount of electric vehicle charging stations, and a reminder to be a good neighbor by keeping and adding landscaping to the northern property line. Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the PIP amendment for Lot 2, Prairie Oaks Drive, east of the Goddard School.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Hunke.
Yeah, I'm curious how we can ensure that the landscaping can be amenable to the neighbors. Like how, if we approve this, how do we word it such that that is part of it? Because I worry that we approve it and then I have no reason to believe they're not going to do it, but I just want to make sure that there's somehow it's incorporated.
Yeah, no, I mean, once it's approved, I mean, we can't, like, this isn't directed at anyone in the audience, but like verbal things that don't show up on like the official motions don't count for anything. I guess I would potentially suggest making it contingent upon final staff approval of the landscaping plan. But I would just double check with Ms. Holt and see if that's okay. I know staff doesn't always like these contingencies because it's kind of a judgment call. But thoughts?
We could do contingent upon staff approval, but I'd like a little more specification as to deciduous, evergreen, modification of the existing plan slightly, or just a little bit more detail so that we meet what you're hoping to achieve.
So the gentleman that spoke had specific information about the plantings that the property owners would prefer. It seemed reasonable, given the information they provided. Also to note that, like, I heard that, nobody attended these. There was a medical reason why they didn't attend them. So I feel like it's legitimate, like, either we go back and don't approve it today, or, I mean, I'm not a landscape architect. I have no idea. So I don't know how that works, I guess.
I guess it would kind of come in the motion, but I think it would be kind of something along those lines where, like, the two comments about, I mean, a more natural green screen, and then double checking the varieties so it's not all spruce. But I have Alder Ricky, then Alder Kemp, then Alder Touche. Alder Ricky?
Yeah, I was just going to say something about making sure they're native trees or plants, and the comment about the more natural, not a straight line arrangement.
Alder Kemp, and then Alder Touche.
Alder Ricky hit on what I was going to say. I think the specific type of tree that the gentleman was referring to was a Norwegian evergreen, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if we want to be that specific, but I don't know if anyone else recalls.
It was a Norway spruce. So
Norway spruce, there we go, okay. So if you want specifics, that's what it was, so.
Although I would note that Norway spruce is not native to Wisconsin.
Right,
So
right.
that we have landscape ordinance around native plants. Alder Touche, and then Alder Ricky.
Can we just build this into the building permit process somehow and allow some of the time for this to bake and yet let the developer move on? Is that
I mean, I think the contingency would be a good way to handle it because it allows the project to move forward, but at the same time, it makes sure the neighbors' concerns are addressed.
Is there some kind of wording that we throw in that the developer and affected property owner come to some mutual agreement with the city as a validator in some magical way?
Ms. Holt?
In the past, we have had landscaping plans that weren't complete to the point of plan commissioners being okay with it. And so we have put the condition that a landscaping plan should be reviewed by staff with your contingency that you just put on it, in the sense of adding more landscaping to support what the neighbors have requested.
That wording is perfect.
Was that the motion to amend the motion?
Yeah, it is a motion to amend the motion.
Motion by Alder Touche, is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. Amendment to the motion before the body. Questions or comments on the amendment? All right, so we'll just be voting on the amendment, of course. But all those in favor of amending the main motion as described by Ms. Holt, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the main motion has been amended with a contingency. And we are back on the main motion. Questions or comments on the main motion? Alder Ricky, you had your hand up before.
Yeah, I just wrote down that the neighbors stated the use of native white pine instead of a non-native species or spruce might be better.
Yes, that was my recollection as well. Other questions or comments on the motion as amended? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-22-025, approving a precise implementation plan, PIP amendment to construct a 3-story 57-unit apartment building for Lot 2, Prairie Oaks Drive, east of Goddard School, as amended with the contingency, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Posey.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number R-22-026, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots from 1 lot located at the northeast corner of Liberty Drive and Clarity Street in Liberty Business Park.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. Alder Posey.
Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the certified survey map to create 2 lots located east of Liberty Drive and north of Clarity Street.
Motion before the body. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-22-026, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots from 1 lot located at the northeast corner of Liberty Drive and Clarity Street in Liberty Business Park, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the motion passes. Alder Posey.
Thank you. So next we have the initial review to construct approximately 483 multifamily units with 22 buildings and 1 commercial lot located at 7085 County Highway PD, known as the Draeger property. The applicant gave a presentation to the Plan Commission, the same one we saw this evening, so I won't necessarily dive into the whole spiel in the packet, so if you've referred to it. There were questions about how this project relates and interconnects to Whispering Cove's development and to the south and west of the property. Commissioner wanted confirmation as to what was discussed in the comprehensive plan and neighborhood plan proposal for this property, which included commercial along County Highway PD, multifamily in the middle of the property, and single family along the southern portion of the property, when this was included as part of the regional stormwater management area. Currently, all properties in this area must now have stormwater management areas on each property instead of the envisioned regional pond. Question was raised asking if there were too many apartments in the city, as was discussed earlier. The commissioners supported the overall layout of the property, with the stormwater ponds acting as a buffer to the single-family homes in Whispering Coves. There was a suggestion to relocate the commercial lot to the east. There were suggestions about adding an additional playground near the townhomes, while another suggested moving the clubhouse and playground to be central to the property. The last recommendation from the Plan Commission was to ensure that the underground parking requirement will be met for each building. The Common Council is encouraged to provide feedback and recommendations to the application, as this is the initial review of the development.
Thank you for that explanation. So there'll be no motions, obviously, for this one, but now's the opportunity to provide feedback or ask questions. I know someone is going to say Alder Kimmett and then Alder Touche.
I just wanted to echo that I thought it would be wise to move the clubhouse and the playground to the center of the property, or at least close to the highest density. As a mom walking kids, it's a nightmare. So, yeah.
Alder Touche.
Thank you. I definitely like the townhouse-style dwellings that are on the property. I like them a lot. My initial opinion looking at this, thinking about Epic, thinking about the placement to the single-family homes, the city is now to the point where there's more apartment housing than there is single-family housing in Verona, so the thought of adding this many more is a bit of a struggle for me. But townhouses really, I really like the idea of them because it feels like the gap filler that we have a lot of gap of going from apartment to a house, and a townhouse definitely gets you a lot closer to that. I'm especially a fan if it can become owner-occupied versus rented. On top of that, as far as the layout goes, I mean, if I had my druthers, it would be, I'd remove the B1 and B2 building and turn those into, again, townhouse style instead of the 3-story buildings. That would be my preferred change to this property. As far as the clubhouse and all the other stuff, I get it. Putting that by McKee Road makes it a little less appealing. Maybe if it was on the other side of the property, maybe swapping a stormwater area. I doubt you can do that, but I get why you're doing it as well. So, in fact, if you can get rid of the A buildings and make them all townhouses, I'd be even happier. So, thank you.
Alder Helmke, and then Alder Kemp.
I'm going to second what Alder Touche said. I see this huge gap as well with the townhouses being great. I also like the idea of owner-occupied. We're really missing, we're seeing a lot of apartments. There's a missing space for homeowners. Our average, starting home in Verona is over $400,000. That's, and I understand there's other properties coming in, but I still think there is this gap in this specific space. I do agree with the clubhouse too. I don't necessarily love it on McKee Road there. And Alder Kimmett's point, I have kids and I understand that having it at a more central point would also make a lot more sense. So I guess owner occupied, more townhomes, and moving the clubhouse.
Alder Kemp.
Yes, everyone, Alder Helmke and Alder Touche pretty much hit on everything that I was going to say. Again, I'm excited about this just because it seems like we have a developer that is coming in and trying to fill a gap. I constantly am looking at Facebook, and a couple friends of mine are talking about the cost of purchasing a home in Verona right now, and a lot of this is just simply driven by the market, and there's not a lot of control, obviously, that any of us have. I have no intention of moving at all, because if I tried to move, I wouldn't be able to get back into to a new space. So the idea of trying to build townhomes for individuals that maybe are in between that space, between renting and then owning a home is exciting. If you could move that, I don't know, if you could move that clubhouse again to a centrally located area, that would be better. It kind of, having it so close to that road is a bit of a concern, and I do see, as a parent also, my kids are older, but I have a 7-year-old daughter, so I try to imagine myself having her go from one side of the neighborhood to the other to get there. That would be a bit of a concern, but all in all, I do like the project. If you could find a way to do more townhomes that are owner-occupied, that would be even better. So thank you, and I appreciate your efforts.
Alder Posey, and then myself.
I actually had a question that, Jess, you may be able to answer, because looking at tonight, I was curious about the left-hand turns coming out of there. We can imagine there'll probably be a lot of folks turning left that driveway, and I don't think that would be a spot we'd be able to put a light or anything else, knowing its proximity to.
There may be able to be a light there. I know the TIA was done as part of Whispering Coves, included the Dreger property, the Endress property, and some properties to the south. And the TIA didn't suggest that a signal was needed there for the left turns. I think you're talking about onto PD.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, it's something as things develop, we continue to monitor. And yeah, the key one is the one you mentioned, coming out of the development, turning towards the left towards Epic is the one that would drive the need for a signal.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I guess I have a question now too. So really, I don't know, I just think it'd be wild to take so no signal required for left turns there right now, or even with this development?
Correct.
Huh.
Let me pull up the TIA. I can give more
If you
information.
just, you don't have to go into detail. If you could just forward it to me, I can look at it later. But yeah, I'm just shocked because it seems like with the commercial there, that would be Oof, that would be a rough turn. But I guess, yeah, I'm going to kind of probably repeat some of the stuff I said from Plan Commission, but I do appreciate the variety and the townhomes. I think they're a good part of sort of gentle density where we can, kind of maximize our space and use it efficiently, but not, maybe with, like 4-story buildings. I agree with the comments both here and at Plan Commission regarding the clubhouse. It is, the more I think about it, probably too close to PD. And, if it could be centrally located, or if you could end up with 2 parks, maybe somewhere in the middle, I think that would be great. I would just also like to stress that I would, for the commercial property on the west side of the development, I would really like it to be kind of integrated in a walkable way into the neighborhood, which would mean no drive-through or drive-throughs or anything like that. I realize that's a lot to ask because I feel like putting a fast food place with a drive-through there would be like printing money, but I'd really just prefer it to be something, so we can have a semi-complete neighborhood there. I would also like to see, and this is maybe more on city staff and the developer, but to make that north-south road both bike and pedestrian friendly, maybe with a multi-use trail. And then just a general kind of comment that there's, of course, surrounding landowners, and I hope everyone can work together well on the roads. I know the stormwater stuff didn't quite work out, and I know there's a lot of reasons for that, but the roads really have to work collaboratively. But on the whole, I'm very open to this project, and I think I would love to see some owner-occupied condos, because I do feel like that would fit a good part of the market, and I feel like we haven't seen that as much, and I think variety in housing is good. But in general, I think we just need more housing in the city if we're going to keep it attainable, much less affordable for regular people. But that's all I had to say. Alder Cronin?
I'm clearly in the minority here, sorry. But I have no problem with adding more apartments to the city of Verona for several reasons. One is that it is a step toward home ownership. Not everyone can go from living with their parents to buying a home. Renting is one way to save some money. And if you look at the demographics of who is living and working in Verona, there is some transition. So some of the people who would like to live where they work aren't going to live here forever. And as was noted, there are several developments that will be bringing many single-family homes to the city of Verona. The only other comment that I would make is to pile on with the pool and community center to make that more central.
Other feedback for the developer? Oh, Ulrike.
I just had a question about, I thought I saw it in here, but I can't remember the number of bedrooms in the townhouses. Are they all like 3 and 4? Because I know some of the apartments have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. I'm just wondering if the townhouses are all the higher number.
Yeah, the townhomes are currently designed as 2 bedrooms, and actually, since we've submitted this, we're probably looking to skew that more towards 3 bedrooms to accommodate more families.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Alder Kimmett.
This is less for the developer and more for city. What are we doing to promote pedestrian traffic if we're going to be building this close to Epic? Like, that road is not fun to bike on currently.
Mr. Billmeyer, or do you want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, I believe the Highway PD has a new bike trail that runs along it that would go in front of the Draeger property, goes down to Northern Lights, and then connects to Epic. So there's actually an awesome bike and pedestrian facility.
And if I might add to that, I do think it shows how important getting a good multi-use trail on the north-south road is, because then people can connect in both from that neighborhood and from Whispering Coves as well. Other feedback? I guess, Ms. Holt, did we provide adequate feedback? All right, we're getting thumbs up. Last chance on this item. Seeing no further discussion. Anything further from Plan Commission? Alder Posey.
Nothing further.
Excellent. We'll move on to 10D, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water. Alder Touche.
Thank you. Item 10D1, I'm making a motion to approve a water main easement with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for Project 2022-108 Wildcat Way Water Main.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. Alder Touche.
This water main requires an easement including permanent and temporary limited easements to facilitate the project. There are 2 documents required between the city and Wisconsin DNR, land use agreement and underground water main easement. The fees for these easements from the Wisconsin DNR is $500 plus recording fees for the documents. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of granting the water main easement, or approving the water main easement with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for Project 2022-108 Wildcat Way Water Main, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? The motion passes. Alder Touche.
Thank you. Item 10D2, I'm making a motion to approve a professional services agreement with MSA Professional Services for Project ID 2022-117 Badger Mill Creek Multi-Use Path Phase 2, contingent on city attorney and city administrator approval. This agreement is not to exceed $63,400.40.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp, I think. Alder Touche.
Thank you. This agreement is with MSA for preparing contract documents for Phase 2 of the multi-use path along Badger Mill Creek. Phase 2 is an extension of the path that was constructed in 2021 from County Highway M to Arbor Vitae Place Junction near the Ice Age Scenic Trail. This agreement includes survey, design, plan development, construction permitting, work in waterway permitting, bridge design, floodplain analysis, easement preparation, project manual, and finally, bidding services. MSA has designed construction work with the Madison Metropolitan Sewage District, or MMSD, for Phase 2 of the Pumping Station 17 Force Main Relief Project. The work required for the multi-use path will be combined into the MMSD construction project bid package to take advantage of contractor efficiencies from work that will occur in a common corridor. A separate memorandum of understanding will be required to identify commitments between the city and MMSD. The city is drafting the memorandum of understanding at this time and will be presented in July or August of this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the professional services agreement with MSA Professional Services for Project ID 2022-117 Badger Mill Creek Multi-Use Path Phase 2 with the conditions he specified and in the not to exceed amount, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? That motion passes. Alder Touche.
Thank you. Next up, 10D3. I am making a motion to approve change order number 1 for project ID 2022-101, Verona Asphaltic Street Rehabilitation Project.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. Alder Touche.
This change order is to add additional storm sewer piping along the gravel path from Arbor Vitae Place to Badger Mill Creek to improve drainage during the spring thaw and precipitation events. Ultimately, this will make the path more pedestrian-friendly during certain times of year and extend the life of the investment, allowing the ability to place asphaltic top along this section of the path in the near future. The additions of certain items include, but not limited to, stormwater pipe and storm sewer inlets. Change order number 1 is an add of $33,000, bringing the total contract to $228,990. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the change order? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving change order number 1 for project ID 2022-101, Verona Asphaltic Street Rehabilitation Project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Public Works?
That is all for tonight.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 11, new business. We have one item, 11A, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the current litigation and proposed settlement involving a condemnation claim made by a property owner related to a County Highway PD road project. Can we get a brief overview in open session?
Well, I think it actually, in this instance, Mayor, it may make sense to say more after we come out of closed session, because I think the recommendation from staff is to have a short closed session discussion so that we can kind of give you some information about how we got to this proposed settlement, and then maybe answer your questions, and then have maybe a little bit more of a discussion when we come back out.
Okay, that makes sense. Motion to go into closed session would be in order.
So moved.
You are on the hook for reading the whole statute.
The Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren G, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the city who is rendering oral advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the city with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session.
Motion by Alder Rieke, seconded by Alder Touche. This is, of course, a roll call vote. If Clerk Lick would read the roll.
Alderperson Cronin.
Aye.
Alderperson Helmke.
Aye.
Alderperson Kemp.
Aye.
Alderperson Kimmett. Alderperson Posey.
Aye.
Alderperson Rieke.
Aye.
Alderperson Touche.
All right, we'll move into closed session as soon as we're off camera. All right, it is 8:27 PM and we're reconvening in open session. Questions, comments, or motions on 11A? We're thinking, actually. Microphones are still working. Alder Posey.
All right, we'll give it a shot. I'd like to make a motion to approve the settlement agreement involving the condemnation claim made by the property owner as laid out during closed session, and we will hear related to County Highway PD road project.
Second.
All right, we're getting a thumbs up from the attorney. Okay. Motion by Alder Posey, second by Alder Touche. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on this motion? I'm going to ask Mr. Kleinmeyer to give a brief overview.
Sure. This is just a settlement agreement. So the city has had a number of reconstruction road projects over the last number of years. As you go through that process, sometimes we're able to reach negotiated settlements with property owners to acquire the land that we need for the road project. Other times, we need to utilize the eminent domain process in Chapter 32 of the Wisconsin statutes. When you do utilize that process, there's obviously rights that property owners have, including the ability to file a claim in court challenging the amount of the compensation. In this instance, we had a property owner on County Highway PD who did file a claim pursuant to their statutory rights. We did have a trial coming up a few weeks back. However, the parties were able to reach a proposed settlement agreement, and that is the settlement agreement that you now have a motion and a second on right now.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the proposed settlement agreement between the property owner and the city related to County Highway PD road project, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We're at item 12, adjournment. Motion by Alder Touche to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to say maybe Alder Helmke as the second. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we're adjourned at 8:30 PM. Thank you all.